All right, everybody, a big Game 6 tonight, NBA Finals. And we are in a very interesting spot, I believe anyway. Kurt Helin, Pro Basketball Talk, NBC Sports Radio, as he is set to join us here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. You can listen at NBCSportsRadio.com and download the NBC Sports Scores mobile app today. Kurt, welcome back. We've got a bunch of scenarios, all of which I feel are far-fetched, okay? One, Toronto winning 3 times in Oakland, I find to be far-fetched. I'm having a hard time talking myself into that. 2, if Golden State wins the series, they will have gone 3-1 in Toronto. I'm having a hard time talking myself into that. So, what is a bigger possibility? Toronto winning 3 times by the way, which would be 4 times in a row because they won there in the regular season. So I have a hard time. Can you talk me into a solution?
I tend to lean towards the first one of those. I tend to think Toronto can do this one. For whatever reason, and not just this series, these whole playoffs, they've been better on the road. They've been more comfortable on the road. I'm not exactly sure why, but they've been maybe they just like getting out of Canada. I don't know what it is, but they've been a really good team on the road these playoffs. The other part of that, though, is it just comes back to the matchups. They've been the better team in most of this series. They've won 14 of the 20 quarters. They've won. But it's, again, coming back to the matchups, with no Kevin Durant, obviously, Kevon Looney is questionable. I imagine he's going to try to give it a go through the collarbone again, but limited minutes. We'll see what he can do. That means, look, if Kevin Durant's out there, or if Kevin Durant's not out there in this case, well, then Alfonso McKinney is going to be out there for minutes. And, here's my high-level basketball analysis. That's a downgrade. He's not as good. It's a huge step back. If DeMarcus Cousins is going to be out there, they're going to target him. He's got to come up with a lot of points because he gives up a lot. I just think the matchups really favor Toronto. It's just the question is, can the motivation and shooting of the Warriors in this last game at Oracle overcome that?
This is odd because, okay, so are we saying, and I might agree with you on this, that the Raptors are just a better team than the Warriors are when they don't have Durant?
I've come to that conclusion. When we went into this series, I said, well, it's kind of a coin toss until Kevin Durant gets back, and then Durant gets back, and everything changes. In the limited number of minutes we saw with Kevin Durant, he absolutely changed the series, and that wasn't even 100% Kevin Durant, and it just, the Warriors were a much better team. And that said, in those other minutes, it really has the defense, especially in the half court of Toronto, and their ability behind Kawhi Leonard to get the shots they want has been all that. So this goes back to looking like those first games in Oracle to me, where the Warriors are going to struggle to match up, and their only hope is to have a Splash Brothers game that just carries them, kind of like they did last game. They got 12 threes from them. Team shot 20 of 42 from 3. They have to have another game like that.
Yeah, it's so weird. So if the Warriors end up losing this series, how does that change their offseason? I mean, do they have to go harder? I mean, Durant's not going to play next year, but do they have to try to make a deal to bring him back on the Supermax? I mean, how does a loss in this series really change the Warriors offseason?
Loss or win, they're going to try to bring Kevin Durant back, and the injury changes that dynamic in this sense. The market for Kevin Durant hasn't changed. The Knicks will still max him out. The Clippers will still max him out. Other teams, all the teams that were going to go after him will still go after him. The question is now, if he, like you said, he's going to spend probably all of next season. In theory, he could come back around the playoffs, but let's say he spends all of next season out. Does he do that? Does he want to do that where he's comfortable in an organization where he's, he knows the trainers, he knows the staff, he knows the build. They're moving in a new building, but it's actually literally 3 blocks from where he lives in the city. Does he want that level of comfort, or is he just no, I want out so bad, I'll take the Knicks money or whoever for a year? It really changes that, and then that dynamic obviously ripples down throughout all of free agency.
Wild situation with this Warriors team because and then you got the situation for Steph Curry. I mean, if they end up losing this series and you're looking at Steph as, hey, this was your chance. I mean, does that diminish anything this Warriors team has done or him at all?
I don't know that it does too much. I think it exposes them for, look, they won that first, nothing. We're not going to take away the 2015 title, the pre-Durant title, from them in any way. But that team was deeper, and they were all a little bit younger, and that's what they're going to have to. If Durant leaves, or even next season, if he's not playing, obviously, they've got to get back to more of that. I think you've seen, even in the Portland series, how good they can be. But Toronto, much like the top teams in the East, are just on another level. They are really capable of pushing these Warriors, and the Warriors are going to have to find some depth, have to find some balance to go with it. If they don't have, they sacrificed all that depth and some of that stuff for Kevin Durant. But on top of that, Andre Iguodala's gotten older, Sean Livingston's gotten older, and they've got to find some. They got to find some youth and athleticism to go around their stars now.
Kurt Helin is with us here, the NBA Finals tonight. Of course, you can hear it all right here on 97.3 ESPN. We're getting ready for free agency, the draft. Kyrie says, I'm out. Let's see what happens there. Kyrie, Anthony Davis. Durant being out kind of makes things not as interesting, although I guess it's interesting in itself to find out what happens with him. But Kyrie, Anthony Davis, how are we feeling about those two as free agency is now just, 3 weeks away?
Yeah, Kyrie opted out, or said that he was going to opt out. By the way, he was going to opt out anyway. If he re-signed with even if he decided to re-sign in Boston, he was going to opt out because he makes just under $12 million less if he opts in. And that's the same thing. Even if Kevin Durant decides to stick around with he makes like $6.7 million more if he just opts out and then re-signs. So he was always going to opt out, but look, the buzz is he's gone. The question, like you said, the Durant thing changes things. There was a lot of buzz around the league all season long from sources. Hey, Durant goes to New York and he recruits Kyrie, and now they're a tandem with the Knicks. What if he doesn't go to New York? And there's a lot of talk now about the Nets maybe landing Kyrie Irving. It really throws a lot of those type of things up in the air. And I'll tell you, just from a Philadelphia perspective, the teams that are in Durant mode are upping their interest and trying to talk to guys like Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris and Kemba Walker down in Charlotte. Now, those guys are just going to have more options and interest. What they decide to do with that is up to them, but it probably nothing. All three of those guys probably stay if they get offered enough money, get offered the max to stay. But there's a lot more teams kind of, hey, we'd love to talk thing going on right now.
He's Kurt Helin. You can listen to him on NBC Sports Radio and NBCSportsRadio.com. Download the NBC Sports Scores mobile app today. Check out Pro Basketball Talk and follow him at Basketball Talk on Twitter. All right, Kurt, enjoy the game tonight, pal.
I will. Thanks a lot, Mike. Take care.
All right, it is Game 6. It's tonight. It's on 97.3 ESPN. And, of course, our coverage begins at 8 p.m. That's Kurt Helin right here, like all guests, appearing via the Boardwalk Honda Hotline.